Hello. Tish'a B'Av is the saddest day on the Jewish calendar. History is full of catastrophic events that befell Jews on Tish'a B'Av. It's not always clear whether the date was accidental or intentional. The Mishnah says that as of 2,000 years ago, the following happened on Tish'a B'Av. First, the spies Moses sent to scout the Promised Land brought back a largely negative report which demoralized the Israelites. Second, the first temple was destroyed in 586 BCE. Third, the second temple was destroyed in 70 CE. Fourth, the Bar Kokhba revolt against Rome failed in 135 CE when he was killed and the city of Betar was destroyed. Fifth, Jerusalem was razed a year later and the exile began. Since that time, on Tish'a B'Av, in 1095, the Pope began the Crusades. On the way to the land of Israel, the Crusaders slaughtered 30 to 50% of the Jews of Europe. In 1242, 24 cartloads of handwritten Talmuds were burned in Paris. In 1290, the Jews were expelled from England. In 1306, the Jews were expelled from France. In 1492, the Jews were expelled from Spain, including my own ancestors. In 1626, a false messiah, Shabbatai Tzvi, was born. His apostasy to Islam dashed the hopes of millions of Jews, 1/3 of the total, and severely disrupted their lives. In 1914, World War I began. It led to World War II and the death of 6 million Jews in the Holocaust and facilitated the Communist Revolution, leading to 70 years of darkness for Soviet Jews. In 1941, Nazis ordered the final solution, the Holocaust. Why did all these things happen to us? It is the eternal question of theodicy. Why do bad things happen to good people? We discussed the broad question before. Today, let us discuss a particular verse in the book of Psalms, which we also recite in Birkat Hamazon, the grace after meals. Na'ar ha'iti gam zakanti, velo ra'iti tzadik ne'ezav, vezara'o mevakesh lachem. I have been young, and now I'm old, and I have not seen the righteous abandoned, nor his seed begging for bread. What does this verse mean? And why do we say it in the grace after meals? The plain meaning can be right, because we have all seen the righteous people go through bad times. Life is not fair. Some Jews, especially Holocaust survivors, skip that line in Birkat Hamazon because they have seen too many counterexamples. The psalmist himself must have known that good people can starve and that being pious does not shield you from tragedy. A prime example is Job. So why did he say it? Many commentators have provided alternatives to the plain meaning. Some say it's an ideal, an expression of hope, not a fact. Others note that he does not say that it's always true, only that it's his own personal experience. I have not seen. Also, he does not say the righteous never starve, only that he has not seen them begging for bread. The righteous don't beg. They bear their burdens stoically and with dignity. If so, is the line merely glorifying stoicism? Others note that he does not say the righteous won't suffer, only that God won't abandon them. But isn't this a contradiction? Or they note that he does not say the righteous will lack nothing, only that they won't lack bread, meaning the basics. No one starves in a Jewish community because the Torah mandates that the poor must be given a portion of the harvest. This commandment, Peah, reads, quote, "When you reap the harvest of your lands, you shall not reap all the way to the edges of your fields, or gather the gleanings of your harvests. You shall not pick your vineyard bare, or gather the fallen fruit of your vineyards. You shall leave them for the poor and the stranger." Unquote. One can ask, but what if everybody's poor? Some argue that he does not say only the righteous will be supported in hard times. Some less than righteous people will also get what they need. Others believe it means that righteous people may suffer, but they're on such a high spiritual level that they don't feel it and deny that they have any problems. In the Mishnah, Ben Zoma says, Ezehu Ashir Hasameach Behilko. Who is rich? He who is happy with his lot. Is the verse then an exhortation to ignore earthly suffering? The Midrash says it does not mean God never gives up on the righteous. It means that the righteous never give up on God. They never really feel abandoned, even when they go through rough patches. God says in Book of Psalms, I will be with him in his distress. So the line means, I never saw a righteous person who felt abandoned by God, even if his children were begging for bread. This is reinforced by the fact that the preceding line in Birkat HaMazon is another verse in Psalms that says, fear the Lord, you his pious ones, for those who fear him lack nothing. So the verse reflects what you feel, not the reality. Others say it means that even when the righteous suffer, they're convinced it's somehow for the best. A good example is 1st century Rabbi Nahum of Gamzu, who was severely afflicted yet always optimistic. He always saw a silver lining. Quote, it is related of Nahum of Gamzu that he was blind in both his eyes, his 2 hands and legs were amputated, his whole body was covered with boils, and he was lying in a dilapidated house on a bed whose feet were standing in bowls of water to prevent the ants from crawling onto him. Why was he called Nahum of Gamzu? Because whatever befell him, he would declare, Gamzu Litova. This too is for the goods. The Midrash mentions a saying that goes, most Kohanim are wealthy, and concludes that the line applies mostly to Kohanim. Others believe that when he says, I have not seen the righteous abandoned, he is referring to the rewards the righteous will get in the world to come, the afterlife, not in this life. Rabbi Chaim Paltiel from 13th century France adds that perhaps he simply never saw a righteous man, period, because there are no righteous men. He's just encouraging us to strive for the ideal of true righteousness by following all commandments scrupulously and promising this reward in exchange. However, this contradicts the Midrash, which says there is no time in which the Holy One, blessed be he, permits the world to be without righteous ones. In fact, righteous men appear in every generation. There is also the opinion that what the verse says was true in biblical times, when God was closer to us, but it's not true today. This is the Talmudic concept of Yeridat Hadorot, the decline of the generations, the notion that Torah scholarship and spirituality have been steadily decreasing since the revelation at Sinai. The Talmud says, quote, if the early generations were sons of angels, then we are sons of men. And if the early generations were sons of men, then we are asses. Notes that one may ask, what does the line, I have been young, add to the thoughts? I'm old should be sufficient. But nothing is superfluous in Scripture. Maybe the answer holds yet another meaning. Missing is midlife. Perhaps young and old are the only stages during which one can recognize these things. Finally, here is what I consider to be the best explanation, possibly. Rav Soloveitchik notes that Queen Esther asked King Ahasuerus to spare the Jews using these words, quote, how can I bear to see the disaster which will befall my people? And how can I bear to see the destruction of my family? Unquote. He then proceeds by analogy in wording. The same word, ra'iti, to see, is used in both places. I have not seen the righteous abandoned, and can I bear to see all this? But in the case of Esther, she clearly means, can I bear to see all this and do nothing about it? Indeed, Esther took great risks to save her people. Likewise, the line in Psalms mean, I have not seen a righteous man abandoned, nor his seed begging for bread, and done nothing about it, because I helped him and gave him what he needed. So the word in common, ra'iti, does not mean just I have seen, but I stood by as a passive and uninvolved witness. This explanation also answers the question, why is this verse in the conclusion of the Grace After Meals? The Grace After Meals begins by thanking God for giving us food. So it is fitting that it should end by stating that we will do the same and give food to the hungry. Our line is next to the last. The last line is, the Lord will give courage to his people. The Lord will bless his people with peace. As an aside, who wrote that verse? Psalms are usually attributed to King David, but the Talmud teaches that this one should not be. Quote, who said, I have been young and now I'm old, and I have not seen the righteous abandoned, nor his seed begging for bread? Could one say that King David said it? No, because he wasn't that old. It's believed David was in his 30s when he wrote the Psalms. If we say that it was the Holy One, blessed be he, it would be wrong because God is ageless. Rather, we conclude that the line was said by the ministering angel Metatron, the prince of the world appointed by God to rule over the worlds. In the Torah, God tells Moses at Mount Sinai, behold, I'm sending an angel before you to guard you on the way and to bring you to the place that I have prepared. Beware of him and obey him. Do not defy him, for he will not forgive your transgression, for my name is within him. That angel was Metatron. Mystics note that the gematria of Metatron is 314, same as that of God's name, Shaddai. But the Talmud says the Israelites rejected Metatron. The Israelites did not accept Metatron even as a guide, because it's written in Exodus, and Moses said to God, unless you yourself lead us, do not free us from Egypt. For how shall it be known that your people have gained your favor unless you go with us, so that we may be distinguished, your people and I, from every people of the face of the earth? In conclusion, let's continue to say, I have been young, and now I'm old, and I have not seen the righteous abandoned, nor his seed begging for bread, but add, and done nothing about it, as we hope for a near future when this verse will be literally true in every possible